And then what happened? You saw a light?
There was a light, and this was sometime later. I actually went home first to see my family. Visiting in my home, I saw my husband and my children. I saw my husband reading the newspaper. My children were preparing for bed. And there was a strange detachment. I felt as though their lives were perfectly fine without me, and that it would be okay for me to go on without them. And then I went back to the hospital, and I was drawn up into this black space by some tremendous amount of force. And while I was in this black space, there were others that occupied this space, going through a transformation much similar to what I was going through. It was very loving, and it was very warm and beautiful, but it was very, very black.
You weren't frightened in that
No,
stage?
I wasn't. I felt a tremendous amount of love there. But then I saw a pinpoint of light, and I was attracted to that light. And I began to move feet first, noting for the first time that my body, I had a spiritual body, and that I had some light in me. It was very dim, but it was glowing. It began to travel towards this brighter light, and that brighter light would be compared to perhaps your sun here on the brightest day, perhaps by another 100,000 times, if you could imagine it. And I just traveled very quickly towards it. As I came to the light, I could see that it was a being, a person, that was emanating this light. The light was flowing from him. And as I got closer, I knew who this man was. And I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, just like I would know a grandfather or a grandmother, I knew that he was Jesus Christ. And I began to rush to him. And I said to myself over and over as I was running, I'm home, I'm finally home, and I never, ever want to leave you again, almost chastising him for having had to have this separation from him. But he just held his arms out as I ran into them, and he held me, and he loved me unconditionally. And there was a humorous nature about this man.
When people hear about these experiences, it's hard to convey what the feeling is like. I mean, right now, we can all relate to, you're sitting there, we're sitting here,
right.
The way it feels to move around in our body.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe what that movement was like, going through this experience?
It was more natural to me than sitting here and talking to you right now, in that when you leave the physical, and you go back to the spiritual, the physical here seems dead. It seems non-existent, slow, heavy. In my book, when I came back into the body, it was heavy and clay-like, and that's how it seems here. It is very dull in comparison.
Now, how did you know that this being was Jesus?
I knew him. I remembered him. It was a recognition. He didn't appear to me with nail prints in his hands or in any of the familiar ways that we are accustomed to seeing here on Earth, such as the pictures. But he appeared to me, they explained to me that he appeared in what would be all his glory.
Now, is it possible that in this state, that because it was part of your background and your belief system, that it would be expected that, say, in your personal case, you would encounter Jesus, and for another person who had a different kind of religious experience, they might encounter the way God would be manifest in their religion? What is your response to that?
Yes. In fact, I asked about that. It was part of my questioning, you might say. I needed to know. And I learned there that if you had another belief system, God would not shock you out of your belief system, but that you would ultimately, we all would come to know that God did exist and that Jesus existed as well. But, I mean, that we would all be drawn to that knowledge eventually.
You really interviewed Jesus, didn't you? You
Yes,
had
I
questions.
did.
Tell us what he told you.
I was so bewildered, I guess, and confused because of the religious training that I had had. I call it a Heinz 57 because I had attended just about every church you could imagine. And here I was experiencing my death, experiencing life, if you will, with Jesus. And I had not been taught these things. And so I wanted to know. And he wanted me to know all the answers. And so as I asked him, he gave me whatever I wanted. He let me tap into what is called pure knowledge. And so I learned many of the laws that govern us here on this earth.
Let's start with the basics. Why are we here?
Why are we here? To learn to love.
How has this changed, Betty?
When I was 31, I was a woman with a great deal of attitude. I was raised in such a fashion to where I had a chip on my shoulder. I had a lot of anger, a lot of I was very judgmental. I judged everyone for whatever purposes. I went through what was called a ripple effect. And this ripple effect was like a life review, showing that what you do to others is going to come back to you. Not only will the pain that you cause them ripple back to its creator, you, but the pain that others create in other people because of what you've done to them, that all comes back.
Now, we're speaking with Betty Eadie about her near-death experience. You asked Jesus why there is pain in the world. What answer did you get?
Yes, I did. I learned that there's pain in the world because it is part of the natural growth process, that if we didn't learn pain, we would not learn joy or happiness. And so some of us that have probably the greater pain are actually the greater spirits capable of handling that additional growth period.
I want to ask Betty, what did Jesus look like?
Yeah, anything like the pictures, Betty?
In ways, yes, because they have captured emotion that I could tell that was, a part of him. The love in the eyes, but the color of the hair, no, he was a being of light. But then again, this was in all his glory rather than his earthly body.
Yes, in the Bible it talks about people having visions. I'd like to know, do you think it's more like, could be a dream or a vision as opposed to a near-death experience?
Or is a near-death experience a dream or a vision?
Well, I think you would have to experience all of these things to know the difference. And I'm an avid dreamer. I love to dream. I dream in color. I dream in black and white. I always have. And I have hallucinated before. After a death of one of my daughters, I hemorrhaged then, and I hallucinated. So I know what dreaming and what hallucination is. What I experienced was actually heightened awareness. And so, no, I wasn't dreaming. I did not hallucinate.